that we've got some participants here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Kelly Moy. I'm the director of the Division of Clean Energy, and I wanted to welcome you to a brief information session on the true-up budget for FY21. Just in terms of what we're planning to go through today, I promise to be able to give you back some of your time on your schedule. This will be very brief. We will provide an overview of the true-up budget process, go through some of the program changes in the compliance filing, and then circle back on process and schedule. Just in terms of a few meeting logistics, this meeting is being recorded. The meeting recording and the PowerPoint that I'm going through will be available on the New Jersey Clean Energy Program website directly after the meeting. All of the meeting participants, all of our participants here are on mute, and we do welcome questions and comments, but we ask that those questions and comments come in via our email addresses, which were included in the notice. So this is not going to be a public comment session, but rather an opportunity for us to provide some information for you on the true-up budget. We don't typically provide these types of meetings during true-up, but in the interest of making the budget more easily understood and accessible and transparent, we wanted to run through some of those changes for the true-up budget. So once again, this meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be placed on the New Jersey Clean Energy Program website, along with the PowerPoint at the end of our call today. We sent out a number of documents for review. They're available on the New Jersey Clean Energy Program website. They include the request for comments, the true-up budget itself, and appropriate tables, as well as compliance filings, the Division of Clean Energy Program compliance filings, the TRC compliance filing, which is our program administrator running our EE programs, the Comfort Partners compliance filing, and our Charge Up New Jersey, or our light duty electric vehicle program compliance filing. So all of those are available on our website in order for you to take a look and provide comments on those. Just by way of background, the fiscal year 21 New Jersey Clean Energy Program budget was approved in September 2020 by board order and action of the board. This was based upon the estimate of expenses and commitments expected to be incurred during the fiscal year of 2020. That was the extended fiscal year. Once actual expenses and commitments are known, then the board typically does a true up of the differences between the estimated and actual amounts. So that is the process that we are going through now. Just by way of orienting you, we will be doing the FY22 budget planning moving forward in the next several months. There will be stakeholder engagement in that as well, and so we look forward to your participation there. The recommendations that are included in the true-up budget for any reallocations and changes are based upon program needs and changes in those original projections. We have very much focused on ensuring a smooth transition on energy efficiency administration, with the board's action in June of 2020 to change the energy efficiency programs to reach significant increased energy savings goals. And so a lot of the efforts going into true-up were focused on that. There are also program revisions that are included that are intended to provide an equitable, transparent, and efficient use of the balance of the funding that is available. So to build the FY20 fourth budget revision, and indeed any budget, we use forecasts for anticipated expenses, and after that, we will know the actual expenses, and that's how we get to a true-up. So the slide that is before you now expresses the final budget fourth revision. So those were the budget revisions compared with what is the actual FY20 expenses and commitments. The top table shows the difference between those, which is what's available for reallocation. And again, this slide and all of the other slides will be available on the website. So I am going through this rather quickly, but we're happy to answer questions via email after the fact if needed. The bottom table expresses the expected uncommitted carry forward versus the actual carry forward. So we did carry forward more than we had budgeted or anticipated carrying forward in the amount of $25.2 million. You'll see that on the bottom table in the middle column. In addition to that $25.2 million, we had additional income from application fees, interest payments, and other types of revenue in the amount of $5.8 million, which leaves us with $31.1 million that's available to reallocate to other budget needs and programs. So I'll take a pause here very briefly to give you an opportunity to take a look at this, which again will be available on the website. So this is the slide representing the FY21 true-up budget, what we expect to be spending, and in the programs we expect to spend it over the balance of this fiscal year, which will conclude at the end of June. In addition to reallocating the aforementioned $31.1 million from FY20 and other revenue, we also recommend line item transfers, which you will see in the fourth column, from budget lines which we don't anticipate expending before the end of FY21. Namely, you'll see as we scroll through, there's $7 million from energy storage and roughly $700,000 from microgrids that we do not expect to be spent before the end of this fiscal year, which have been reallocated to other program and budget needs. There's a few other items that I want to highlight on the true-up budget that are of note here as well. We worked with our program administrator, TRC, to rebalance the funding within the EE programs to ensure a smooth transition of all of those energy efficiency programs. As you can imagine, given the pandemic, some programs fared well and were able to continue to function, while others saw some decrease in participation. We also experienced significant growth in certain areas such as commercial and industrial, which I will get to a little bit later. You'll also notice a large increase in the renewable energy line down at the bottom of this table. That's the line that is intended to support the development and related expenses of the New Jersey Wind Port and Paulsboro. As noted, we recommended reallocating $7 million from energy storage to support other budget items and programs. And finally, of note, sorry about that. Finally, of note, the electric vehicle program. This line here expresses the carry forward funds that were reallocated, kept within that the EV line, and will be utilized through the balance of FY21. There were no additional funds that were added to the electric vehicle incentive or administrative line, but rather funds that were carried forward and kept within that budget line from FY20. So I just wanted to flag that as well. The following tables include some additional information about the reallocations and the rationale behind those reallocations for those line transfers. These items listed here are the proposed increases. And I'll note, as I said before, we saw a significant increase in commercial and industrial buildings for energy efficiency programs and are budgeting according to that in order to ensure that we are able to keep that program continuing through the end of the fiscal year. Particularly of note, enhanced incentives for prescriptive lighting. There was a lot of interest in that. The program has since been curtailed. We do have base incentives for that program still. Also of note, offshore wind, as I mentioned, there are additional line item transfers in order to support the development and related expenses of the New Jersey Wind Port and the South Jersey Port Corporation, Paulsboro Port. We have moved funds for membership in order to accurately represent memberships that we utilize. And also the electric vehicle incentive fund, we moved forward funds that are carried over from FY20 in order to cover those continued expenses in FY21. This budget table, again, includes the reallocations and rationale behind the proposed decreases in the budget line items. Many of those are budgets that were adjusted to reflect the forecasts updated because participation levels were decreased from what had been originally anticipated when we put the budget together for FY20. We also are carefully looking at all of our consultants and RFQs that are necessary in order to do the work of the board. And there were funds that were available as a result of that careful and close look. Again, noting energy storage, the funding is not anticipated to be expended within FY21. And so those funds have been reallocated. And finally, in the Charge Up New Jersey program for the plug-in EV incentive, we reallocated funds from the administrative budget line, which will not be spent for the balance of the year, into the incentive fund line to cover those incentives. The program compliance filings are also on our website for your review. We included those in red line. For those who have reviewed the many hundreds of pages already, you'll be able to go through and just identify the changes by way of red line from what the review was previously for the anticipated FY21 budget. I will just note a few of the changes here. In offshore wind, both the South Jersey Port Corporation and MOU that was entered into the board allocating $1.8 million that already happened. The New Jersey Wind Port, we have planned for a possible MOU between EDA and the board to support the development and the related expenses for New Jersey Wind Port in the amount of 13.2. The Community Solar Project Year 2 release of the pilot program and those applications is included. And in addition to that, 2 requests for comments and 2 studies that are being done. One on the Energy Master Plan rate impact study to examine individual ratepayer impacts associated with the New Jersey goals of 100% clean energy by 2050, and a grid modernization project where staff will be engaging with a contractor to update New Jersey's interconnection rules to reflect national best practices and better ensure our ability to meet our state's clean energy goals. The program administrator, TRC's compliance filing includes a couple of changes as well. The Large Energy Users Program includes a recommendation for a cap on overall total energy costs and savings for 50% for lighting to reflect the changes in the cost of lighting that we're seeing in programs and a desire to get the most bang for our buck in terms of our investments. In addition to that, a change in the combined heat and power fuel cell program, which would redefine the way we classify our fuel cells to addressing those in terms of their efficiency levels of 60% and 40%. Also, we continue to support flexibility for reporting requirements due to COVID-19. The Comfort Partners compliance filing, as many know, this is a program that is co-managed between the board and the utilities in the desire to advance some of the board's requirements within the June 10th board order, and a desire to ensure that the programs are more equitable and accessible. We are working with the utilities to pilot a location-based automatic eligibility program, which would allow for census tract eligibility for 6 neighborhoods that will be equitably distributed geographically around the state, so that we can gain some understanding of how that would work. The intent of this is to lower barriers and obstacles to participation in this low-income program, and it aims to increase participation in areas of most need. Finally, the Charge Up New Jersey compliance filing has a number of changes in it that are only related to catching up the compliance filing to actions that have happened by the board to date. So there are no additional changes in the Charge Up New Jersey compliance filing related to the EV program other than what the board has already taken action on individually within those board orders. Finally, just a reminder, we're very interested in your comments. We read those, review those, and integrate those into any modifications that are needed for this. Once again, I'll remind you that we are just commencing our FY22 planning for the upcoming budget year and are very much looking forward to stakeholder engagement and public comment on that. So we will be doing that in the very near term. Just a reminder that comments should be submitted to the address that is on the screen, board.secretary@bpu.nj.gov by 5 p.m. on Tuesday, March 9th, under the subject heading request for comments, proposed NJCEP, FY21 true-up budget, etc. Any questions that you have can be submitted via email to our public comments email that is listed on the screen. We are very willing to take your questions on this. Once again, we don't normally do these informational sessions, but want to ensure that there's more access to the information and the actions of the board, that we have an opportunity to talk to you and provide some transparency into what can be very complicated documents. So we do very much appreciate your outreach, any questions that you have and comments as well. So feel free to reach out to staff on that. As I promised, we got through this pretty quickly, and so I'm happy to give back the balance of the time and appreciate you all tuning in to join us for this important sharing of information. Thank you so much. Have a good day.